All right, guys, welcome to another episode of 5 Minutes of Mike. I'm your host, Michael Beckford. And I've been watching some videos lately here on YouTube, and I feel like I want to address something that's a lot of people are hurting from right now. And that's essentially the big, beautiful property tax scam. Yeah, I said it. Property tax scam. I'll see you guys on the other side. The United States is 5 Minutes with Mike. Our news, our voice, our issues. Believe that.
If everybody here owns their home and you don't have enough money to pay for the teachers' salaries and the education, then there's something wrong in the government and we need to fix it.
Y'all paid y'all's property tax yet? Good Lord. I live in Alabama, and I know everybody thinks we have super cheap property taxes, but we've lived in the house we live in now for 10 years? And we got into the whole Dave Ramsey paying off your debt type thing, and we had envelopes that we saved, and we would have one set aside for taxes because we knew that was coming due every year. We would put $100 a month in that envelope to pay our taxes. They were $1,200. In 10 years, they are now $2,200. So that's a 100% increase in 10 years. Well, my husband was complaining about making a point, and I agree 100% with him. He's getting out of the car to go to the bank. But anyway, you get nothing extra for that tax money. You don't get better roads. We don't get garbage service. Nothing else for that added money. Property taxes are a huge ripoff. They should be illegal because you never can completely own your own property. The government will always have a way to raise it above the level that you could afford to pay and take it from you. The housing market has been so crazy and everything is worth more than it was. So they ran out there with people to assess your property to say that it's worth a whole lot more than it used to be. But it still isn't worth it until you sell it, and we may never sell it. We'll probably retire there. So it doesn't make any sense. It's just, I'm in a bad mood about property tax today. Can y'all tell?
Do you know how absurd it is that we have property taxes and vehicle registration every year? I want to set a scenario for you real quick, just to see how this feels. Imagine you want a brand new laptop, and you go to Best Buy, and you spend $1,500 cash, and you buy this laptop. And you go home and you open up the laptop that you own, that you worked for and you bought and you owned and paid taxes on, and you own it. And the next day you get a letter in the mail from the IRS, and the IRS goes, hey, we saw you bought a $1,500 laptop. You owe us $10 a month in perpetuity. And if you don't pay the $10 a month, we're going to take your laptop. So you're basically just renting it from us. What if you rented an apartment and bought a $1,000 sectional couch, and you're so excited and you're sitting on that couch and there's a knock at the door and it's an IRS agent going, hey, we saw you bought a $1,000 couch. You owe us $5 a month in perpetuity. And if you don't pay the $5, we're going to take your fucking couch.
Has had property taxes for almost ever. According to ChatGPT, aka Gemini, well, the one I'm using. And said, according to Gemini, property taxes has been around here in the United States even right around the colonial era in the 1700s, right before the United States, U.S. independence. Property taxes have been around, of course, to fund states and things of that nature. But here's the hidden story that they don't want to talk about, or they don't talk about in regards to our, local governments, which have become just bloated machines of fury when it comes down to it. The state, local, and the federal government at each level all waste your tax dollars. Okay, no surprise there for anybody. But the surprise, I believe, effect that people will realize is that a lot of the money that they're collecting, they don't have to. They don't have to. Okay? So what I mean by that? Because I know I'm going to hear it. We need police. We need fire to support our particular places. If we don't have police and fire and an education for our schools from the property taxes, then we're just going to be donezo. Okay. So here's the question. How does 21 other nations support their police, fire, and other utilities without having to levy a recurring annual property tax, dude. How does 21 other nations, including the UAE, right? This episode of 5 Minutes with Mike is brought to you by Michael D. Beckford's newest book, HOMEBOYS. Everybody has a homeboy, or friends call his own. The best friend you kick it with at the family barbecue. The one you trust to bring around your lady without raising a red flag. A homeboy will play video games, smoke, and chill. A homeboy is a nigga you can ride or die, and the one you sleep with on the low. HOMEBOYS, available in ebook and paperback or wherever books are sold. One of the richest nations in the world, Saudi Arabia, another rich one, Qatar, all the big oil nations don't have recurring property taxes. Now, they do charge a tax at the time, just like, for instance, if I buy a Snickers bar today, or if I buy a television today, I will pay taxes on that television one time. So they do charge a tax based upon the sale of and or purchase of that particular property, right? There's a tax being levied at that point, but not a recurring tax, which makes you essentially a forever renter. Okay? Forever renter. And this especially is harsh when it comes down to the black community, when these individuals, especially the gentrifiers, they come into the neighborhood, they start raising the prices, and then grandma, she can't afford go from a $2,500 tax bill to now $5,000 because of the properties, have been going up in value. But grandma ain't sold her property. Yeah, the properties around her must be maybe going up in value, but her property ain't. Her property may still, depend on how she kept it, her property could be a little bit dilapidated, or she could have a beautiful home. Still, the fact remains, she ain't sold the shit. So why is it that she's being levied a higher tax bracket because of quote unquote the beautification of the neighborhood? Great, the neighborhood need to be beautiful no matter what. If we can help it, so it's an atrocity to the highest degree when it comes down to property owners. Because guess what? You don't pay that property tax, gonzo. An investor gonna come by, take your home. The state's gonna, put a lien against your particular property. I mean, it's a foregone mess. And it don't matter how long you paid on your property. It could be 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. You stop paying that property tax year one. And what I mean by year one, year one of, not paying could be 40 years that you've been paying. Year one of not paying, they take your whole home. And there goes your potential generational wealth. And this is happening time and time again, especially in the black community. This is how a lot of the gentrifiers are able to come in and take houses for 10 cents on the dollar, essentially, within the black community, because of the fact that, grandma may default on her taxes, or grandma died and the kids that inherited the home, they don't got money to pay for the taxes on the property. So they'll take that 10 cents on the dollar or whatever just to, to unburden the tax burden. And then, and now you have the investor that, can cakewalk it. Now, I'm not here to blame the investor because I've done real estate, I've done wholesaling and things of that nature. And I'm not here to blame the investor because at the end of the day, the investor did not make up these rules. It's the government that made these rules. See, the investors would not be able to have an opportunity to do such a thing if these things weren't in place by the state and local federal governments. Okay. But as far as property taxes that's levied, it's usually leveled by the local and state governments, primarily the local governments. Okay. The state normally levies in regards to sales tax, things of that nature. So let's look at a scenario here, right? For my people that say, oh, well, how are we going to be paid for this and this and that? Shut the F up, bruh. Look, these nations are able to pay based on all these things that they need for their public, right? And run a successful country based on keeping out the fat when it comes down to just bloated salaries and jobs and positions that were just there because of political favors, right? And to do what they need to do to run their particular local and, their places throughout their country. So once again, you got Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, well-to-do places, especially Saudi Arabia. How are they in European countries, Monaco, Malta, islands in the Caribbean? We got Mexico down, right there. We got Haiti doesn't have property taxes. And a number of African nations don't have property taxes. So how are these nations? I'm not talking about just, some, poor end of the road type of nation. How are most of these nations able to survive without having to bill you a recurring tax for a recurring tax revenue. Listen, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a tax on the property at the time of sale. I'm not saying that. It should be like any other thing that we purchase, right? That's the way that you can use your funds to fund the different levers of government. But to say that there's going to be a recurring tax no matter what, bro, that should be criminal because it's a scam. It's a scam, fam. It's a scam. And until the people start rising up against these atrocities and scams such as this, we'll continue to have these type of taxes levied upon us, taxation without representation. So let's think about it in America. We pay sales tax on all our goods and services. You telling me these sales taxes from all these big box stores, from everywhere you go, from food to Wendy's, wherever you go shop and dine, you're getting taxed on every single thing. No break, no reprieve. Grocery stores, you're getting taxed. Everything you eat and you getting taxed from sales taxes. You mean to tell me that those taxes that's being levied can't support a healthy local government without all the freaking fat? Okay? Now, that's that one that you got that tax. Now then, of course, like I said, you got the tax that's going to be a lot higher when it comes down to the sale of a car, the sale of a house. You're telling me that these governments can't support themselves when you sell a $50,000 car, which is that's the average price tag of a car nowadays. And think about that. On 7.5%, let's talk about Florida right now. That's where I'm from. Florida is average, most places, most municipalities, you're looking at a 7.5% tax. So let's say I buy a $50,000 car, bruh, and I do 7.5% of that. That's $3,750. Cars are selling every freaking day in Florida, okay? Most of the hundreds of cars are selling every day in Florida, all over the place. You're telling me $3,750, let's say times just 100 cars a day, that's $375,000 in potential taxes. You telling me each day from $375,000? I mean, I just said 100 cars. That's a very low end, right? I'm just like, that's not even conservative. That's below conservative. But you're telling me $375,000 can't help support a local government's budget? The fuck are we talking about, bruh? Like, I mean, I hate the cuss because of the YouTube and whatever, but this right here, like, people should really be outraged. And there are people that are outraged. I'm not even a homeowner, and I'm outraged because even if you're not a homeowner, property taxes affect you too as a renter. Because guess what? The homeowner is going to pass down that tax to you. You know what I'm saying? In the form of higher rents. So it affects us all when it comes down to property taxes being higher. And now we have Mondami, who was elected as this, socialist, Democrat, blah, 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 whatever BS. I have a problem with Mondami overall. I think he seems like a pretty cool candidate, whatever. But the man only been in office for, a month and a half. And he's already talking about a potential increase in taxes on the middle class that's already hurting the worst. Which the middle class to me is basically now the, high-end low class, personally. Because, they're trying to, make the little middle class extinct for as much as I know. So you have that situation, when it comes down to the taxes in New York. You're talking about 9.8% is what they're talking about raising it in New York City. 9.8%. Who can afford that? Freaking wow, bruh. So let's get back to these numbers here, though. So you telling me $375,000 a day, and that's just, like I said, that's not even a breadcrumb amount of cars that's being sold. But I'm just using that as a conservative number. That can't support $375,000. Let's just do the math. Let's just multiply that times 30 days. $375,000. $375,000. I'm using my calculator times 30. That's $11,250,000, bruh. In taxes from 100 cars sold. Now imagine 5,000, 10,000 cars sold a month across the state of Florida. We didn't even talk about the properties here in Florida. Property taxes, like I said, recurring property tax revenue is a scam, bruh. When you got roads that are still bad, schools that are not enough, I mean, come on. And lastly, my last point when it comes down to this property tax scam, we also have that little thing from the IRS every year called the income tax. Oh, yeah. Now, income tax is primarily geared towards the federal government. That's what we directly pay in the federal government. But guess what? Those federal dollars, those dollars that come from your check every week, you know what I'm saying, in the form of your paycheck, well, those dollars get funneled to the federal government. And guess what? Those money goes to the federal government. All that money goes to the federal government. But those monies do also the federal government ends up also sponsoring local programs. So still the local and state governments still get a piece of pie of your state income, of your federal income tax. Now, if you don't live in a state like the state of Florida, because we don't have a state income tax, but if you live in a state, you know what I'm saying, there's only like 4 of us that don't have state income tax. We live in a state like California, New York, good luck. Georgia, good luck. You got state income taxes to worry about as well. So the government, to me, is getting you 4 ways that I know of right now. And there is a 5th way. But let's talk about those 4 ways. You got property taxes, they getting you. Sales tax, they got you. State income tax, got you. Got you on the and also in Florida primarily they got you on those toll roads. Now, the 5th way I didn't talk about, but many have discussed in those videos as well, is the recurring taxes in order to ride your car. Those annual registration taxes. Annual registration. It's a tax. Same scenario applies. You stop riding, you start paying, you don't pay to register that car this year. Guess what happens? Whoop, whoop, they pull your ass over. Okay? And they're going to tell you you're driving your car illegally on the road. Right? Illegal? Because guess what? Driving is not a right, it's a privilege. So that means that they can do anything when it comes down to attaching it to your license. Suspend your license, all sorts of things. But the main thing is they can go ahead and tow your car as well. They want your ass to pay taxes till you die. Well, we already all know that. The problem is these recurring taxes, specifically when it comes down to property taxes on your home, and them levying up, just saying, oh yeah, because this, that. And then obviously we have the taxes when it comes down to your vehicles, is a scam. There's no other way to put it, guys. It's a mother effing scam. And until we have an uprising of a nation and say, hey, no more frivolous taxes, no more frivolous property scam taxes that's on us, then we'll forever get taxed out the roof. We'll forever have a situation where we see, especially in the black communities, our homes getting taken right up under us. Grandma that paid 30 years into that home that she invested in, bam, taken right from under her because she missed 1 year. She missed 1 payment. She missed just a couple of months. And they take her mother effing home. All right, guys, this is the episode, man. Please sound off in the comments what you think about this. Like and subscribe. Thank you. Have a blessed day. Some of your favorite books from the creative mind of Michael D. Beckford are coming soon to quicklit.com.